Okay, be honest. Have you ever forgotten where you put your keys or, a name you just heard 5 seconds ago? What if I told you that you, yes, you, could train your brain to remember the exact order of a shuffled deck of cards? Well, in this explainer, we're diving into the story of a journalist who did just that, proving an incredible memory isn't some superpower you're born with. It's a skill you can learn. Yeah, this sounds completely insane, right? Like something out of a weird dream. But what you're reading is actually a tool, a carefully constructed memory from journalist Joshua Foer. And believe it or not, this truly bizarre scene is a mental hook he created just to memorize 3 playing cards in a row.
And that's pretty much the exact question Foer asked himself. He'd stumbled into this bizarre world of competitive memory, and what he found was that these strange mental images weren't just random crazy thoughts. They were actually the secret language of a skill that he was about to become completely obsessed with.
So how does a regular guy, a journalist with a memory he himself called average, end up in a world like this? Well, it all started with a simple reporting assignment. See, Foer was just like the rest of us. He thought his memory was nothing special. Then he learned something that blew his mind. We waste about 40 days a year just trying to remember things we've forgotten. That one idea led him to the U.S. Memory Championship, a place where he saw people do things with their minds that just seemed impossible. Foer's first thought? These people, these mental athletes, they had to be savants, right? Born with some kind of superhuman brain. But when he asked one of them, a guy named Ed Cook, about it, Cook just laughed. He said, no, we're not savants. We're just using these really old techniques that literally anyone can learn. And just like that, Foer's story had found its main character, himself.
So what was this ancient technique? It's called the memory palace. And this isn't some new age brain hack. It's a method that was apparently invented by a Greek poet more than 2,000 years ago.
Now, the absolute genius of the memory palace is that it basically hacks our own evolution. Think about it. Our brains never evolved to remember lists or phone numbers, but they are amazing at remembering places, spatial information. So the memory palace takes boring, abstract stuff and turns it into vivid, crazy images that you place along a mental route in a building you know by heart. So how do you actually build one? It's really just a 3-step process. First, pick a place you know inside and out, like your childhood home. Second, map out a very specific route through it. Front door to the hallway to the living room. But step 3, that's where the real magic happens. You populate that route with the most unforgettable images you can think of. And when I say unforgettable, I mean weird. Our brains just don't hang on to boring stuff. They're wired to remember things that are shocking, funny, bizarre, or just plain multisensory. The image of Claudia Schiffer in a pool of cottage cheese gives your brain so many more hooks to grab onto than just a plain old carton from the store ever could. Okay, so you've got the bizarre images down, but that's not the whole story. Learning the skill wasn't just about dreaming up weird stuff. It meant pushing past a barrier that we all face whenever we try to learn something new.
This was the next big thing for Tafferhead to get his head around. For most things in life, like typing or driving, we get to a point where we're good enough. We go on autopilot and just stop getting better. It's called the OK plateau. But experts, whether in memory or music, do something called deliberate practice. They actively fight that autopilot. They look for what they're bad at, they focus on their mistakes, and they are constantly pushing themselves just a little bit past what's comfortable.
Another key tool experts use is something called chunking. I mean, look at this. That long string of letters is just a jumble. It's hard to process. But the second you group it into 4 familiar words, it's easy. Memory champions do the exact same thing. They don't see 52 different cards. They see pre-memorized chunks, a single vivid image that represents a group of 2 or 3 cards. And here is why that chunking trick is so incredibly powerful. See, most of us can only hold about 7 items, plus or minus 2, in our short-term memory at any given time. It's a hardwired bottleneck in our brains. Chunking is like a secret weapon. It lets these mental athletes bundle huge amounts of information into a single item, effectively smuggling way more data past that natural limit.
And All this reveals something really deep about what it means to be an expert at anything. It doesn't matter if you're a chess grandmaster or, well, a professional chicken sexer. Expertise is memory. It's about building this massive internal library of patterns and chunks, which lets you see and understand the world in a way a total beginner just can't.
So, Foer had the theory down. He had the ancient techniques and the modern science. Now it was time to put it all into practice. And his little journalism project, it quickly turned into a full-blown competitive obsession. His entire life became this mnemonic boot camp. Every walk was a chance to memorize license plates. Every phone number became a new image in a memory palace. He spent months creating a unique 3-part image for every single playing card. It got so intense, he had anxiety dreams about his card characters melting into asphalt. This was serious. After a solid year of this crazy training, it was go time. Foer showed up at the 2006 U.S. Memory Championship not as a journalist, but as a competitor. He had to face all these grueling events, from memorizing hundreds of numbers to a really strange challenge called the Tea Party. Then came the main event, speed cards. The goal? Memorize an entire shuffled deck in order as fast as you possibly can. Foer's time was a jaw-dropping 1 minute and 40 seconds. He didn't just compete, he absolutely shattered the American record. The journalist was now a serious contender.
It all came down to a final showdown. Him against the defending champ. They had 5 minutes to memorize 2 shuffled decks of cards. His opponent went first and faltered. Foer held his nerve, recalled more cards correctly, and just like that, the guy who showed up a year ago with a notepad was now the United States memory champion.
He did it. He had the trophy. He was the champion. But Foer realized pretty quickly that the trophy wasn't the real prize. So what was the point of all of this? Well, here's the crazy part, the paradox he discovered. Even though he can now memorize a deck of cards in under 2 minutes, he was still just as likely as ever to forget where he'd parked his car. The day-to-day forgetfulness, it hadn't gone away. And that's when he figured it out. The real benefit wasn't getting a photographic memory. It was that all that training had forced him to be more mindful. To make anything memorable, you first have to really look at it, to engage with it, to find what makes it interesting. He learned that remembering isn't a passive thing, it's an active act of paying attention. And at the end of the day, this is why it all matters. Our memory isn't just a hard drive for facts. The things we choose to pay attention to, the connections we build in our minds, that's what makes us who we are. It's the foundation of our character. So in an age where we can just look everything up, Foer's journey leaves us with a pretty big question. What part of ourselves are we losing when we stop doing the work of remembering?